In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. But we found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. We got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof. It was just the nastiest place you can imagine.
And you lived in it too.
And I lived in it too, and showered at the YMCA. I didn't have any money. In fact, I had negative money. I had huge student debts. So, in fact, I couldn't afford a place to stay and an office. So I rented an office instead, because I got a cheaper office than I could get a place to stay. And then I just sort of slept on a futon and showered at the YMCA on Page Lawn.
Wow, I can't believe it's actually here. It's pretty wild, man. Just 3 years ago, I was showering at the Y and sleeping on the office floor. And now, obviously, I've got a $1 million car and quite a few creature comforts. It's just the moments in my life.
2001, with just talking to a friend of mine, and he asked me what I was going to do after PayPal, and I thought, well, wondering like, I'd like to get involved in space, but I just didn't think there was anything I could do as an individual.
Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight and the way that you're developing it.
I was very sad to see that, because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here. And I think that would change their mind.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
You put $90 billion, like 50 years worth of brakes into solar and wind, to Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I mean, I had a friend who said you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
Most space organizations, government or commercial, have set their sights too low. They've really built relatively small rockets. And Falcon Heavy is the first time that there's something that's arguably even in the super heavy class, or somewhere between heavy and super heavy. 5 million pounds of thrust is really crazy amount of power. More than twice as much payload as any other rocket in the world. It can launch things direct to Pluto. No stop needed.
Hotels in the area are completely sold out.
Yeah.
Parking lots are packed.
It's like the first time something exciting has happened in rocket launch in a very long time.
Falcon Heavy is configured for flight.
T-minus 15, stand by for terminal count.
SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
10, 9,
All systems command
8, side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
And actually we had 3 launch failures. We were just able to scrape enough money together for a 4th flight that succeeded in 2008. Here we are. It's sort of the first time in the 4 billion year history of Earth that life has been able to go beyond Earth. And that window may be open for a long time, and I'm optimistic that, I hope it will, and I'm actually fairly optimistic about the future of Earth. But something may happen that closes that window and prevents life from extending beyond Earth. And that risks the extension of life, or at least consciousness as we know it. And that would be a terrible thing. Life is a terrible thing for us. So for a while there really wasn't a question of profit or non-profit. It was like, we need to live. How do we live? So that was the main challenge.
How are you doing?
I mean, overall okay. In the grand scheme of things, I can't complain.
Do you get lonely?
Sometimes, but my kids and friends keep me company.
So not existential.
There are many nights I sleep alone. I don't have to, but I do.
Walter Isaacson, in his new biography of you, wrote about your difficult childhood. Will you ever find forgiveness in your heart for everything that has happened to you in that period of your life?
What is forgiveness? I do not... At least I don't think I harbor resentment.
It was one of the bad Christmases. He'd forgotten to get me a Christmas present. We were in Boulder, Colorado, so there's loads and loads of snow. And we were in bed. And he said, it's not that I don't love you, I do really, really love you. It's like, my brain is exploding. And I was like, no, I know, it's fine. And he sort of got up in the middle of the night and disappeared. I was like, where has he gone? And he came back 2 hours later, and he'd gone outside in his t-shirt and shorts, barefoot, and he'd gone and dug through the snow and picked flowers. He'd walked all over Boulder and came back with a little bouquet of picked flowers. And he was like, I just wanted to show you how much I loved you.
I don't think you'd necessarily want to be me.
Well, what's the worst part about
I don't think people would like it that much.
Well, most people wouldn't, but they can't be you. So that's like some superhero type shit. You wouldn't want to be Spider-Man. I'd just sleep tight in Gotham City. I hope he's out there doing his job.
It's very hard to turn it off.
Yeah. What's the hardest part?
It might sound great if it's turned
sleep.
on, but what if it doesn't turn off? Nothing to forgive.
Forgiveness is difficult for people. It seems like you don't harbor the resentment.
I mean, I try to think about what is going to affect the future in a good way, and holding on to grudges does not affect the future in a good way.
You're a father, a proud father. What have you learned about life from your kids? Those little biological organisms.
I mean, developing AI and watching, say, a little X grow is fascinating because there are far more parallels than I would have expected. I mean, I can see his biological neural net making more and more sense of the world, and I can see the digital neural net making more and more sense of the world at the same time.